Alright, hello everyone and welcome. This is something I'm going to be calling the Speak Up podcast, and I'm basically going to be talking about a wide variety of topics for each installment of it, and today I'm going to talk about 4 different things. They range from news to sports, since that's really the extent of my knowledge right now, and at the end I'm going to ask you guys for any feedback at all. Let me know how it sounded, let me know how it went. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And just feel free to let me know in any comments or whatever. So we're going to start first with a big story that happened over the past week, which is the death of the alleged sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was a man who ran a sex trafficking ring, allegedly, who was taken into custody for it about a couple months ago. And he attempted suicide in his cell, at least that's the reports that we're getting, is that he attempted suicide in his cell relatively soon after he was taken into jail. From then on, he was placed on suicide watch, and apparently the suicide watch had run out. That is the news story that we're hearing now from the FBI and the people that are running that prison, is that the suicide watch had expired on him prior to his eventual death a couple of days ago. Epstein's sex trafficking ring served many clients. Unfortunately, there were underage girls that were brought into sex work, and they were raped by Epstein himself as well as other clients. There's photo and video proof, apparently, that the investigation is looking for at this moment. The victims are also coming out and giving their testimonies. But unfortunately for the prosecution, Epstein has passed away. They claim he committed suicide. Here's the thing with the suicide from Epstein, is that it is incredibly convenient that he died at a point where he was not able to name anyone himself. He himself could not be interrogated or face the victims in court. His suicide came a couple days ago, the same day that documents and evidence were unsealed from the Epstein estate and for the case that brought allegations against different people. And so far, we are not really feeling the effects of that, which is unfortunate because these people definitely should be put away for a long time. There are a lot of powers at play here. Epstein is one of the elites in the world, a very rich, very powerful man, and a lot of his clients were also very rich and very powerful. He has met with Trump. Trump considers him a friend, from what I've seen. Going as far as to post a memorial for him about his Twitter, which, that's a personal relationship, but I feel like that should be distanced from a little bit by the president. But Epstein has also communicated with other elites as well on both sides of the political spectrum and just all around just rich and powerful people. And these people could be put away for a long time if they are found guilty and if they are convicted of these absolute atrocities committed against these young girls. Now, a lot of people are going to say, yeah, Epstein committed suicide, that's that. He was a coward, he took the coward's way out so he wouldn't face the punishment of life in prison. He knew he probably would have been treated horribly. He didn't want to face the victims in court. He didn't want to feel that guilt and live on with that guilt throughout the duration of his prison sentence. That's what a lot of people are willing to say. I have a few questions, though. The first question, if he tried to commit suicide relatively quickly into his detainment in prison, why was that suicide watch allowed to expire? In a case as high profile as his, with so many influential people and so many victims, we cannot fathom the extent to which this sex ring operated and to how many victims there really are and even to how many clients there really are. So my question is, in a case as high profile, as valuable to the people of the world, not just America, but of the world, why was the suicide watch allowed to expire? Why was he taken off of suicide watch weeks prior to his eventual death? You would think that a case as important as this, as high profile and as influential and as consequential as it could be, why was Epstein taken off of suicide watch? That raises questions. I'm not trying to be some crazy Alex Jones level conspiracy theorist here, but I do have a few questions about this because I think it's important to ask these because this is a very convenient death and a very conveniently timed death. My other question was, even if he was taken off of suicide watch, so suicide watch in prison, from what I have researched, basically means you are not allowed anything you could use to commit suicide. You are on 24/7 surveillance from the guards. Sometimes you don't have access to even your clothes. You have no access to anything that can cause you harm. You are isolated from other people, since you will try to antagonize them to kill you. So you are kept in isolation. You are guarded every waking moment. You do not have access to anything that can help you commit suicide. So if this is the case, and we know that Epstein committed suicide not too long ago, why was he taken off of it? My next question is why wasn't he guarded just in general? And it goes back to the same thing as the suicide watch question, which is if this case is as important as it is, which we know it is that important, there's so many influential people that could be affected by this, and so many victims that deserve justice for the just atrocious behavior and the disgusting, sickening actions by these people. These victims deserve justice. They deserve answers. So my question is, why wasn't he on guard anyway? Even if Epstein had not made an attempt to kill himself early in his sentence, or early in his detainment in jail, awaiting his trial, why was he not on 24/7 guard anyway? You don't have to be on suicide watch to be on 24/7 guard. There are other high-profile criminals that are guarded all the time that are not on suicide watch. Epstein should have been one of them, given the magnitude of this case, given the evidence, given everything we know so far about this case. Why in the world was he not just guarded anyway? You don't even have to have him on suicide watch. My other question is, how convenient is it that he died the same day that different things were coming out of this case? Different pieces of evidence, different statements, different writings, all these documents were unsealed. It's led to investigation of some people, but it has not led to the investigation that we thought would happen. And again, I'm not saying someone came into Epstein's jail cell and shot him, or they sent him a cake with anthrax in it. I'm not saying that. I'm not going full-blown conspiracy theorist here, but I think it is very important to ask these questions. We can't know what happened. We can trust the FBI, we can trust the government, we can trust the district attorneys and the attorney general and everything like that. We can trust all these people in government, but the questions need to be asked, and they most certainly need to be answered. If not for us, the skeptics in this world that are wondering how this could have happened, how this egregious failure could have happened, they need to be answered for the victims, because the victims at this point have suffered long enough, and now they will not get the justice they deserve unless we are told why. And to know that these victims will go on in life not being able to face the man that has done them so much harm, and not being able to face other people that have done them so much harm, is truly a failure on the part of the United States of America. Our justice system is supposed to bring justice to those that have done wrong. And the handling of this, whether it was a suicide or not, the handling of this is a complete and utter failure on both sides and of all parts involved. Everyone involved has questions they need to answer. These victims deserve it. We the people deserve it, but these victims deserve it more because they have lost their lives. Not in a literal sense, although some of them have possibly. We don't know. This was a sick and disgusting reign by a sick and disgusting man with sick and disgusting clients. Who knows if people lost their lives to this? But these victims figuratively lost their lives. There are parts of themselves they will never get back. They will never have their confidence back. They will never have their courage, their bravery. They'll be looking over their shoulder all the time to make sure a man is not coming to take them into a dungeon to have sex with people that they do not even know, forced to do it. These victims deserve closure on this. And it is the responsibility of everyone involved, the higher-ups of our society, everyone involved has questions to answer, and an investigation needs to be launched immediately, because this is a failure on our part. We are supposed to have a blind justice system that does not see money, that does not see color or race, sexual orientation, religion. It does not see. It only listens to the facts and sees the evidence. The evidence is there to convict some very horrible people, some evil people. They should be convicted for the atrocities that they committed. And unfortunately, we don't know if we'll get there. It is truly a tragedy that Epstein died. Not for the reason you may think. As a Christian, I can say I don't want anyone to leave this earth, especially in a suicide. But I would be lying if I said I'd miss him. This man will not be missed. This man will not be remembered in the way he may want to be. He will only be remembered as a monster, and his clients as monsters. He will be seen as a predator and remembered as one for the rest of history, however long we choose to remember him, which I don't want to waste a thought on this man once this investigation goes through, and I hope no one else does either. He does not deserve it. His legacy does not deserve it. The man is disgusting, and honestly, the world may be better off without him, and I hate to say that, I really do. I hate to say that about any person, but these evil people only infest the world with their horrific actions, and the world will be better off without this man. I want to move into something a little bit different here. We're going to talk about the NCAA and their quest to make as much money as possible and have as much control of their student athletes as possible. A couple of weeks ago, the NCAA launched a new rule regarding agents and underclassmen in college basketball. This is being dubbed the Rich Paul rule by many of his clients, by many analysts, because of its relation to him. Rich Paul is a sports agent, the head of Clutch Sports Group. He represents many different NBA players in particular. Most notably, LeBron James is his biggest client. And if you know anything about the NBA offseason, especially free agency, you know that Rich Paul really determines what happens in free agency because he represents so many big names and so many great players that the salary cap, the contracts that are offered, usually coincide with what he wants and what he thinks is best for his players. Rich Paul is a success story, the likes of which the sports world has not seen in this industry. Yes, you can say that there are players that have not gone to college. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant have not gone to college to play basketball, and they went from, some struggling home life for some of these players to NBA stardom. But in the executive world, that rarely happens. You either have to be a former player or you have to be a very knowledgeable and pretty affluent executive with experience in administration to be an executive, especially in the NBA. Well, Rich Paul did not go to college. He did not get a degree from college. His experience, he credits to just overall life experience and being knowledgeable and passionate about the game and the players that he represents. Rich Paul is almost the embodiment of what the American dream was taught to us as being. To start from nothing and to reach the top through your own hard work. The people that love to say, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, well, Rich Paul has done it, and the NCAA tried and ultimately failed to stop this success story, to write an ending to this story. The NCAA instituted a rule a couple of weeks ago saying that agents had to follow new protocol to represent underclassmen. It restricts the agents available to underclassmen in the following ways. The first part, the agent must have a college degree. The second part, they need 3 years of experience as an agent certified by the Players Union. Third, they need to take a test at the NCAA HQ, which is in Indiana. And they also must pay a significant fee. Since then, the NCAA has retracted part of this rule. Rich Paul wrote an op-ed for The Athletic discussing this rule and talking about it. And Paul, in that article, opposed the rule on the grounds that he did not have a college degree. Like I said, Rich Paul does not have a college degree. Now, this personally would not affect him, and the source I'm taking this information from is the SB Nation article by Tom Ziller, titled Rich Paul's Clutch Shot Killed the Worst Part of the NCAA Agent Rule the Rest Should Go To, on SB Nation. What he writes here is that Clutch Sports, Rich Paul's agency, has other agents that would be able to meet the NCAA's requirements, because Clutch Sports is not just Rich Paul. Rich Paul is the man behind Clutch Sports, but Clutch Sports is a overall agency now. That is how it's grown, which is another part of the American dream, to grow your passion into a business that makes you successful. So Clutch Sports will not as a whole be affected for this, but Rich Paul would be personally because of the college degree rule. Within hours, mere hours of Rich Paul's writing, the NCAA retracted the part about the college degree. It is now optional. The degree, according to Tom Ziller, the degree requirement is now optional and could be substituted if the agent were in good standing with the Players Union. So in theory, we should be happy that the NCAA took off their green-tinted blinders for the money that they wish to make and the control over the student athletes they wish to have, which has led to so much controversy in the country today. We should be happy because they retracted that part of the rule. Well, here's the issue. Every other part of that rule is still mandatory. So just because you don't need to have a college degree, you still need to have 3 years experience as an agent. So my question is, how do you get started? Because you'd think underclassmen that are not high-profile names, so I'm not saying that I could start and claim myself to be an agent and go work with Zion Williamson, but I could work with the guy who's likely going to be undrafted out of the Dayton University basketball team, and I could say, hey, let's try and work on this. But no, I can't actually because I don't have any experience as an agent. So you need to have experience, which is going to be a little bit difficult because Rich Paul in itself, Clutch Sports Groups in itself is a monopoly of sorts because it is so big, and Rich Paul in particular has so many clients. So it's going to be difficult to get past that rule, to obey that rule, and to get that experience. You also still have to take a test at the NCAA headquarters. You also must pay a significant fee. The fee thing is whatever, because chances are if you're going for an executive position like an agent and you do have that experience of 3 years, you can pay the fee, no issue. So really, I'm not a fan of the rule in general, but the pay a significant fee thing is not different from many other things in this world that you have to pay a fee for to be eligible for. The test at the NCAA HQ is intriguing to me because the National Basketball Players Association, the NBAPA, already has a test for agents. They already test the agent hopefuls to make sure they are decent at their job, and they already have to go through a test. So why would you have to take another test from the NCAA to be an agent in the NBA when you've already been required to take the NBA's test? Can someone explain to me how that makes any sense? It doesn't. You're taking, and it's basically going to be the same exact test, because how much variation can you put in the test about being an agent for the NBA if the NBA has already created a test for that position? What's the NCAA going to do? What different questions can they ask? That are different from what the NBA has already asked? They can't. It doesn't make any sense. Tom Ziller takes issue with the 3-year certification. I already discussed that it does seem a little bit interesting that you need 3 years of certification and to be in good standing with the players union. That I don't really get that, because I don't know where he's supposed to start. Ziller points out that veteran agents are more likely to have better relationships with athletic directors, which means that and players in general, so they're going to have more experience just because they've been around longer. So this isn't going to hurt young up and coming agents in the long run. That one, that's not even the biggest issue for me. The biggest issue for me is just the absolute stupidity of having to take another test. I don't get why you have to take what essentially will be the same test. Because, again, I don't know how different you can make a test for the same exact job in the same exact league. It's just the NCAA's version of the test, because these players are going to the NBA anyway, because you can't have an agent in college because the NCAA will publicly execute you by stoning because you tried to make a cent off of your own image, which is a whole conversation for another time. But I don't understand why the NCAA would require another test to be taken. That would literally be like applying for McDonald's for being a cashier at Register 1 and a cashier for Register 2. You're doing the same exact thing, just in a different league. Just in a different station. And not even that, because the NCAA is testing you for your agency abilities for the NBA. They're testing your abilities for the NBA, which the NBA has already done. So my analogy doesn't even work out, because this is such a brain-dead part of the rule to go to Indiana to take the test you will already either have done or will have to do, because I don't know how more different you can make it. The NCAA's lust for money and for power over student athletes at this point is basically gotten out of control. To the point where we are now getting past the part of there being, we're now getting to the point where they are the Saturday morning Cartoon Network villain with a top hat and a monocle that, burns down the orphanage to make a few bucks. That's what it is. It's so brain dead stupid. It makes no sense. Half of their policies make absolutely no sense. Why shouldn't a player be able to make profit on their image when the school is making profit? And you don't tell me that the education is their payment, because I'm going to call total crap on that one, because the education that student athletes receive is a joke. It is a joke. Look up North Carolina men's basketball academic programs, and you will just sit there and continue to laugh your ass off at the absolute joke of an education these players are receiving so that they can remain academically eligible to play the sport. You think the kids at Alabama, you think the defensive players of Alabama, the best defense we've seen, or just the players in general, are taking an advanced calculus course? You think they are? I mean, really? How naive are we going to be here? Maybe the smaller programs, because they can get away with it, because no one cares about sports in smaller programs. And maybe if you're playing football at like Kansas, who's a basketball school, they don't care much about their football program. Maybe you did a decent education then. But even then the basketball players should be making a profit on themselves, right? Because they're taking the history of the jar or whatever nonsense the school wants to give them so that they can stay on the court. So it's an easy class to pass, so they can get A's. They can say, oh, look, our student athletes are so bright, and they're the future of this country, and they also can play basketball really well, and we're going to make millions of dollars this year. That's what it is. It is an absolute joke. I don't even call it an education because it's so stupid. And the NCAA allows this. If the NCAA claims to care about student athletes the way they do, saying they want to make sure they have a great education and they can play the sport that they love, Why do you allow these absolute joke classes in college for college athletes? Isn't that a bit hypocritical? But at the same time, if they pass those classes, they can continue playing. You still have your big tournament in March, and you can make billions of dollars off of these kids and off of these schools. And that's where the NCAA is today, is that it's just gotten to the point where it's so ridiculous that they're requiring you to take a test twice. What, to like super verify that you're an agent? That doesn't make any sense at all. Local stuff now, we're going to talk about the Bucks very quickly because I've seen so many people, particularly on Facebook. There's a Bucks group on Facebook that I'm a part of that I'm almost ashamed to say I'm a part of now because the amount of people looking for Carmelo Anthony to join the Milwaukee Bucks is a disappointment to me now. Keep Carmelo Anthony the hell out of Milwaukee. He is 34 years old. He played 10 games. He started in only 2 of them. He shot 40% from the field and 32% from 3. He scored 13.4 points a game. And it took him 29 minutes to do that. 29.4 minutes per game. He makes 5 shots a game. In 29 minutes. The previous year, in 32 minutes, made 6 shots a game. And shot 40.4%. Why do you want him on this team? It can't possibly be for his defense. I mean, have you seen Carmelo Anthony play? It can't possibly be for his defense. His defense is non-existent. I would compare his defense to James Harden, but that might be an insult to James Harden. And James Harden is a human turnstile. So what does that make Carmelo Anthony? Like air personified? You just walk through him and you score? And do you think this old man will be able to keep up with the younger players, the younger stars in the league? You want to take a team that had such a great defense in years past. In Milwaukee. You want to take the Bucks, a great offensive team and a great defensive team last year. And you want to throw Carmelo Anthony in there for literally what reason? For literally what reason? At least when we brought in the 50-year-old man known as Jason Terry, he provided some semblance of leadership and knew his role was literally to provide leadership in the locker room. Carmelo Anthony is a locker room cancer beyond belief that I'm pretty sure he would poison the minds of every player in the locker room. I'd have to expect Carmelo Anthony to throw food on Giannis's locker because Giannis is the man. Or maybe because Giannis's number is 34 and 3 plus 4 equals 7 and Carmelo Anthony's number is 7, so he thinks that Giannis is trying to flex on him or whatever, because that's about the level of intellect I expect from Carmelo Anthony now. And I hate to say it because Carmelo Anthony was one of the best parts of early 2000s basketball on the Denver Nuggets. He was awesome. And that 2012-2013 season with the Knicks when he scored 28 points a game, 28.7 as I look at it right now, that was so cool to watch. He is one of the best players recently to never win a championship. And I see people saying, oh, we should get him a championship ring. You know, he's earned one. No, he hasn't. Yeah, he played great basketball. But you know what? I'm sorry. The Denver Nuggets. And you're shocked that he hasn't won anything? Really? Well, is that our responsibility now to give him a championship ring when we might not even make it out of the Eastern Conference? Because last year we went 16-22, and as I recall, a certain team named the Philadelphia 76ers were already eliminated by the Raptors. And the Raptors aren't going to be as good as they were this year, so we're going to have to run into Philadelphia, who has improved drastically. And you want to tell me we have a guaranteed shot at the finals? And what, because Golden State is down, that we have a guaranteed shot at winning the finals? We don't owe Carmelo Anthony anything, and if you think the Bucks are making the finals this year, you're absolutely delusional. They are not, making the finals this year. And they certainly are not making the finals with this geriatric old man who can make it up and down the court in like 25 seconds. And who just plays the most outdated style of basketball you can see. And also, I just looked at something now. I'll get back to the style he plays in a minute. 68.2% from the free throw line. And with the Milwaukee Bucks having the free throw issues they've had for the past 5 years, you want to bring a man in that shoots 68.2% from the line last year. 76% the year prior. Who also barely gets to the line. He barely gets to the line. The past 2 years, he's had just above 2 free throw attempts per game. What do you want him for? What do you want him for? Fan service? No one cares about Carmelo Anthony in Milwaukee. He has no relation to the city. Name recognition? Who the hell cares? He sucks now. The style he plays of basketball is outdated because he plays isolation scoring basketball where he gets the ball, he pretends to be the point guard, so he's basically a point forward. Is what he tries to be. He tries to be a point forward. And he is going to dribble the ball, so he'll get up to past half court with 18 seconds left on the shot clock. He will dribble the ball around. He will either stay in the same spot or try and cross someone over and turn the ball over, or if he doesn't manage to turn the ball over, he will try to cross him up and he will try, 500 different things. Or just not move at all. Maybe he'll pass it once and then demand the ball back immediately, going as far as to hockey check the player that has the ball and get the ball back because he's the stereotypical isolation basketball player. The guys who didn't want to share the basketball back in the 80s, who would fight people for the ball because they thought they were all that. And Carmelo Anthony is that now, but in 2019. And then he'll chuck up a brick and he won't make it with his fascinating 40.5% field goal percentage, which is the worst of his career. His 3-point percentage is the 4th worst of his career, and he has played 17 seasons. Again, what do you want him for? I don't understand what you would even want him for. The guy sucks. The guy absolutely sucks. Why do you want him? I don't get it sometimes. I don't get Bucks fans because we have this sense that we're one piece away from winning the finals. We're really not, because here's the thing, is that we just lost Malcolm Brogdon. Chris Middleton got overpaid beyond belief, but that doesn't mean trade him, because you got these people in the Bucks group that I just talked about who want to trade Middleton for DeAndre Jordan, and they want to cut and they want to trade him away for picks so that we can save space to sign old man free agents that will do nothing but just sit and marinate on the bench. I did not say trade Middleton. I said he got overpaid. They overpaid Bledsoe too. That does not mean trade him. You don't have to trade people that have a bad contract all the time. But we're not one piece away from winning the title. There's more. Free throws are a big part of it. The team needs to work on their free throws. The team needs to work on their ability to handle games in the fourth quarter. Giannis needs to work in particular on his free throws, and I swear to God, that is going to be the bane of his existence in the NBA. Giannis, I don't know if Giannis will be talked about as one of the best players to ever play in the NBA. I don't think he will, simply because, for one, I don't overreact to players having a few good years. Giannis is wonderful. I love Giannis Antetokounmpo, but if we're going to call him, we're going to look back 15 years from now, we're going to say, yeah, that man was a generational talent. Yes, he's one of the best players in the NBA right now, probably the top 5, top 3, probably, top 5 for sure. There's a reason he won MVP, because where the hell would the Bucks be without Giannis Antetokounmpo this year? They would not have made the playoffs. You kidding me? But he, in particular, needs to work on his free throws, and that's going to be the bane of his existence. And he won't be looked back on as one of the best players ever because he won't have won anything. Because I don't know if this team is going to win anything because we can't make a damn free throw to save our lives. How hard is it? It's the one thing that you can just practice on and get better at. Your physique does not determine whether you can shoot a free throw. Your ability and your fundamentals to shoot it. Free throw is literally the only shot in the NBA and in basketball in general that is pure fundamentals. You don't jump. So if you weigh 300 pounds and you're a center, it doesn't matter. Or if you weigh 150 and you're a point guard, it doesn't matter. Back to Carmelo Anthony. Bottom line is Carmelo Anthony will want too much money for his name recognition, and he won't add anything to the team if you even brought him in on a veteran minimum contract anyway. There's absolutely no point to doing it. There is literally no point. I don't get it. Very quickly, because I want to talk about this too. Antonio Brown, the diva. The biggest diva we've had since Terrell Owens. Now is no longer walking away from football. He said he's very excited to join his teammates in Oakland. So Oakland got Antonio Brown in the offseason, as you recall. With Vontaze Burfict as well. So we'll see how that works out. There could be a fight happening in the locker room right now as we speak. Antonio Brown took issue with the NFL's rules. He did not want to give up his old helmet that he used to wear in his career. The NFL has mandated new styles of helmets to promote player safety. Because, it's like the NFL isn't going to end concussions because of a helmet when the game itself is inherently violent. But whatever, they're trying something, and I give them that. It's more than it's more than what the NFL's done recently. So Antonio Brown was he's had an amazing offseason. He's had a absolutely amazing offseason. He was late to his introductory press conference to the Raiders. He was late. Came to training camp in a hot air balloon, which, can I just say, Antonio Brown arriving somewhere in a literal ball of hot air. The poetry of that touches my heart. The absolute poetry. This gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside, because to see Antonio Brown come in a ball of literal hot air, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. Then he had a foot injury of some sort that we didn't get much information on, and now we were told that him sitting down wasn't so much about the foot injury, it was about the helmet, and now we're being told that it was about both. Antonio Brown took issue with the NFL's mandating a different helmet. He wanted to wear his old helmet, and he went as far as to say he would quit the NFL. He'd quit the NFL if he couldn't wear his old helmet. Antonio Brown is a literal man-child. But take the man part out of that and call him a baby child, because that is the attitude he has. Antonio Brown might be one of the biggest wastes of talent I've seen recently, and now he's really not going to do anything on the Raiders. So that's going to be a wasted career for him. But the man can catch almost any pass that is thrown at him. But he has the attitude and the maturity of a baby that just came out of the womb. For God's sake, you're going to quit because you can't wear your old helmet? Which is not as safe? Come on. Antonio Brown now says that he will return to his team later this week. The NFL ruled against him. The arbitrator ruled against him. He's looking in an Instagram post. He said, while I disagree with the arbitrator's decision, I'm working on getting back to full health and looking forward to rejoining my teammates on the field. So that's pretty much the end of it, or that should be the end of it. Apparently, Antonio Brown, as I'm reading through here, was one of the last people to hold on to this helmet. The Schutt brand of helmet that he uses isn't unsafe. It's just old. It's too old, according to the committee that makes rulings on this. So it's not even unsafe. So this is a weird thing. This is just a weird thing because this helmet isn't unsafe. It's too old, but you'd think too old would mean it's unsafe. I don't know. The National Operating Committee on Standards for Athletic Equipment does not approve any athletic equipment that is more than 10 years old. And this year is 2019, and he's been wearing that helmet since 2009. So it has run its course, and it was discontinued as in 2011. Brown is likely going to wear his preferred equipment until he can find one that coincides with the rules. Again, I don't know if it's a comfort thing for Antonio Brown or if it's something like that, but it's just a weird situation. And for him to threaten to quit football, congratulations, Raiders. Congratulations, this is your life now. So he is going to come back and play football. And that's the big thing. Is that he will come back to play football. I want to thank everyone so much for listening to this first installment of Speak Up. I'm really hoping to do this more, and I'm really hoping that people enjoy this. Please leave any feedback anywhere you can. And if you have any suggested topics, let me know. I'll do my best to get to them. And I just really appreciate everyone watching, and thank you so much. And I hope you all have a very wonderful day.